Have you ever caught yourself staring at your calendar, wondering how the day vanished, and yet your to-do list still looks just as long? Maybe you're juggling back-to-back meetings while trying to plan what's for dinner, or you're feeding a toddler with one hand while answering work emails with the other. And somewhere in the middle of all that chaos, you wonder, is this what balance looks like now? If you had your first child after 30, or you're thinking about starting a family soon, you already know how different this phase of life feels. There's a maturity that comes with age. Sure, maybe you built a stable career. Maybe you figured out who you are a little more. But with that also comes the weight of responsibility. You're no longer just trying to make it. You're trying to make it all work. And let's be honest, it's not always graceful. Sometimes it's pure survival mode. You feel like you're giving your all to both worlds, yet somehow still falling short in both. And no one tells you how hard that juggle really is until you're in it. But you're not alone, and you're not doing it wrong. You're just human. And there are ways to make it feel less like a never-ending sprint and more like a sustainable rhythm. Let's talk about how to balance family and career after 30. Not in some perfect, color-coded calendar kind of way, but in a real, honest, and doable way that gives you more peace, more connection, and more control over your time and energy. The first shift that helps everything else fall into place is learning to redefine what balance actually means. Most of us grew up with the idea that balance means equal parts, that if you're giving 8 hours to work, you should somehow also give 8 hours to your family. But life doesn't split neatly into thirds. Some weeks, your job will demand more. Other weeks, your family will. That's okay. Balance isn't about symmetry. It's about presence. It's about showing up fully to what matters most in that moment. If you're playing with your kids, be really there. If you're finishing a big project for work, give it your focus without guilt. When you stop measuring balance by hours and start measuring it by how you show up, you feel less torn. You give yourself permission to be fully present, and that presence is what your kids and your career will remember most. The next game changer is something we often overlook. Build a strong support system and actually lean on it. It's tempting to feel like you have to do everything yourself, especially if you're used to being independent. But balance doesn't mean doing it all alone. It means knowing when to ask for help and allowing yourself to receive it without guilt. This might mean hiring a cleaner so you can have more family time, accepting help from your parents, even if they do things differently, or trading off with your partner. You handle bedtime tonight. I've got an early call tomorrow. Support isn't just practical. It's emotional, too. A friend you can text when you're on edge. A mentor who gets your industry. A partner who listens. You don't need a village because you're weak. You need one because you're human. Another powerful shift comes when you set boundaries with confidence, not guilt. Once you become a parent, time feels like a constantly leaking bucket. Everyone wants a piece of you, but not everything that demands your attention deserves your energy. Start by identifying your non-negotiables. Maybe it's dinner with your family. Maybe it's a quiet Sunday morning to reset. Then protect those things. Don't wait for permission. Don't apologize. Your piece isn't optional. It's necessary. If a meeting cuts into your childcare schedule, speak up. If a project threatens your only downtime, negotiate. You don't have to be available 24/7 to prove your value. Boundaries aren't walls. They're doors. They teach people how to treat you. And once you've created space, something powerful happens. You let go of the guilt. It creeps in quietly. When you leave work early, you feel like you're letting your team down. When you stay late, you feel like you're missing memories. But guilt, if left unchecked, steals your joy. Guilt shows up when we hold ourselves to impossible standards. Like we're supposed to be everything to everyone, but no one can do it all perfectly. And they don't need to. Instead of aiming for perfection, aim for presence with grace. Your kids don't need a perfect parent. They need a present one. They need someone who models respect, rest, and resilience. When they see you honor your needs while loving them fully, they learn to do the same. With less guilt, you make room for something nourishing, rituals that anchor your day. Routines help kids feel secure. Rituals help you feel human. In a life full of meetings, chores, and messes, Rituals are those tiny sacred pauses that bring you back to yourself and to people you love. It could be a 10-minute coffee with your partner, a nightly walk, a silly song at bath time, a moment of stillness before bed. Rituals don't have to be big. They just have to be yours. They give your days rhythm and your relationships consistency. Even 10 minutes can shift the whole tone of your day. And speaking of shifts, there's one more that brings it all together. Stay connected to who you are beyond the roles you play. Yes, you're a parent. You're a professional. But who are you underneath all of that? It's easy to lose touch with the parts of you that existed before parenthood and pressure. Your hobbies, your passions, your quirks. But when you reconnect with that person, you come alive, and your whole family benefits. Maybe you love to draw, or read, or bake, or run. These aren't indulgences. They're lifelines. They remind you that you're not just here to meet needs. You're here to experience life. And when your kids see you light up doing something you love, it teaches them something powerful. Joy isn't selfish. It's necessary. Now that you're building presence, setting boundaries, letting go of guilt, honoring rituals, and reconnecting with yourself, there's one final piece. Redefine success on your own terms. When you're younger, success is a checklist. Job, house, family. But once you're raising kids and managing career, success stops being about achievement. It starts being about alignment. There will be seasons where your career takes the lead, others where your family needs more. That's not failure. That's life. Real success is about living in line with your values, feeling proud of how you show up, building a life that feels like yours. If you're present with your kids, contributing meaningfully at work, and showing yourself grace along the way, you're succeeding in ways that matter most. And don't forget, your kids are watching. They see how you navigate stress, how you manage time, how you treat yourself. They learn from your actions. So let them see you taking deep breaths, saying no, laughing more, being flexible, showing up with love, even when it's messy. And on the nights when you're wondering if you're doing enough, remember this. You're doing more than enough. You're raising a family. You're building a career. You're trying, learning, adapting. That's not failure. That's courage. If this spoke to you, drop a comment below. What helps you stay balanced? What are you still working on? If this video helped, give a thumbs up and subscribe for more real, honest conversations about life, love, parenting, and everything between. Here's to building a life that feels full, balanced, and deeply yours.